Mhm.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you guys for joining. We'll wait a couple minutes. I know there's a bunch of people some others that were planning on joining. Alex, you're stepping in for Grayson, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait another minute or so and then we'll have you go first. Everybody shovel their driveways or get their snowplow service.
Still working on it.
What's that?
I said I'm still working on it. Mostly it's done. Started at 1:30 when had to take the kiddo to the doctor and underestimated the 3 inches of sleet snow.
Yeah.
So rescheduled for 3:30. Parked across the street at the park, got more done, blew out the motor, I think, or overheated it or whatever, because it's all sleet, right? So it's just flopping out the. So then I'm pretty exhausted. It's been 5 hours of driving the kids or snow blowing or shoveling.
Oh, God,
I may not be here all that long because I also still have to go get one of my kiddos, but.
Okay. Well, maybe we can stick you, not stick you in,
just in case. Yeah, that would be okay. I'm good till 8:30 for sure.
Oh, okay. I'm hoping we'll be done by then.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Calling the meeting to order for the PTSO meeting. And we will have our student council representative, Alex Gaskin, kick us off.
Hi, it's nice to see you all again. This February, we had our blood drive and then our winter dance. So the blood drive was a great success. We were happy to have Mrs. Miller assisting us. And then we also had lots of parents donate. It was great. Definitely more parents than last year.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, it was a good turnout. And then for our winter dance, it was small but mighty. We had just over 300 students attending. And I know they were happy to have the opportunity to have one after not having a dance the past couple of years. I definitely did.
Yes.
And then my last thing, Mrs. Pfaff says she'll be in touch about the funding for prom opportunities.
Okay.
So is there anything you want me to relay back to her or to our council?
No. Are you guys is the next big thing coming up prom or a student council? Is there anything happening between now and then?
Nothing planned, just prom in April.
Okay. And it sounds like, what is the theme again? Is there a theme?
A night at, I believe it's a night in the city.
Okay.
It's the juniors planning. I haven't heard much about it yet, but I know they're well into their plans.
Okay, wonderful. And it's going to be at Discovery World. So I think that'll be a great place.
Yes, I think so too. I'm just hoping they'll keep it there next year so I can go too.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you about how many students are at student council, because you guys meet in the morning before school, right?
Yeah, we actually have another meeting tomorrow morning. When I joined last year, it was only about 20 students, but this year we've had a consistent showing of 25, 30, even 35 students per meeting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's definitely grown with the freshmen this year.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to hear. Well, thank you guys for everything you do, and thank you for lending your time to student council. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we will head to our faculty liaison, Melissa. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. So as for teachers, you mentioned shoveling. I think weather was part of what was on teachers' minds last week and this week, thinking about that snow day we had and kind of adjusting our calendars as we were wrapping up, as we are wrapping up the trimester. Following the snow day, we had professional development both at the building level and at the district level, where we were focusing on critical reading strategies and some essential skills that we wanted students to know, not just within our department, but kind of across the district. So that was kind of neat to see at the middle school, and how the students that are going to come to us, what they have and where they're going. So that was really neat. We were reunited with students on Tuesday. And so right now we are wrapping up final assessments and supporting students to start to prepare for our exams next week. It's crazy to imagine that that's where we are, but that's where we are. And so next week, Wednesday and Thursday, we will have exams. It's the same schedule that we've been having the last couple of trimesters, where we'll have the review sessions with students. They'll get to go through kind of their schedule 1 through 5 on Wednesday, and then they'll take exams 1 and 2. You'll hear about some exemption opportunities prior to that, if that's applicable to the class. And then Thursday will be exams 3, 4, and 5. I hope I got that right, Mr. Ebert. And then also, I think last time we were together, we mentioned that boost sessions, if a student has an AP class, would be on the horizon. Mr. Ebert from our last meeting has sent out the Excel sheet to teachers to be able to decide which days they're going to provide boost sessions for students leading up to the AP exam. So I believe that will be sent out. So we've responded, and I believe that will be sent out to families and students shortly, so that they can kind of prepare as they leave for us. Hopefully they know what those boost sessions will be. We'll have those conversations prior to them leaving, but then moving into Tri-3, they'll be able to sort of plan accordingly with their lives. We know our students are busy with other things too. So they'll be able to make those plannings ahead of time. Trying to see. Oh, and then obviously soon we'll be thinking about trimester 3. And that's kind of where we're at this point. Let me know if I missed something, Mr. Ebert.
So I have a quick kind of statement or whatever. So we do the mini grants, as you know, and I think, and Becky and Jamie, Lee and Roberta, correct me if I'm wrong, we approved $5,500 in the fall worth. Does that sound right, guys? Yeah. Okay, so we approved $5,500 worth of mini grants, and we usually do it once a year. Cindy in the office is getting the invoices to us, and we are hoping to do it possibly coming up here again to offer mini grants to teachers, because we were thinking teachers in the 3rd trimester might have some needs that they didn't necessarily know about at the beginning of school. So we have to fine tune that form and stuff. The big problem with that is going to be they're going to have to purchase, and we're going to have to invoice so that we can close out our books for June. But if you just want to let teachers know to be looking forward to an opportunity, and if they receive one in the fall, they would not be eligible to receive one now, but so looking for an opportunity to apply for a mini grant. And but that would need to be purchased and wrapped up and invoiced by June.
And
Thank
can I
you
just
so
add
much.
something? I believe that our total budget for mini grants is about 7,000. So I think it's like an opportunity for another 1,500.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that opportunity. We always appreciate that. It's very generous of you.
Sure. Yeah, we bought some cameras and some, I forget everything that was on the list, but it was pretty good. So, and once again, thank the teachers for everything they're doing. We appreciate it. And we're in the home stretch of trimester 3 coming up. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then moving right along to Mr. Ebert.
Thanks, Mrs. Kennedy. I do have a request that I get to go first next time. Alex and Mrs. Blahnik do such a good job and so thorough. They take my points away from me. So I want to go first next time.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's fun to listen to what both of them have to say about what's going on around the building. I'll try to be quick so you can get to the main event, Mrs. Burns, here in a few minutes. I want to first start, Alex, I'm going to start with you real quick. You mentioned about prom being at Discovery World next year. You'll hear it here first. We just put money down on having it back at Discovery World next year. So you'll get your wish. Hopefully that's exciting news.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are. Well, I mean, we're super excited about prom this year. Dawn Pfaff and Ashley Ackman and the student council juniors do a really good job in preparing for that. It really is a ton of work to get ready for prom. We appreciate the partnership with PTSO. If there is a need, that students might have financially to help support that, and then in other ways that Dawn might be able to come up with. But we're excited about the prom. Getting out of Mequon again. We've been in the Mequon area for the last couple of years. And having a chance to do something different. The kids are excited.
Well, what's nice is the kids always want to go down to the city to take pictures. So then you've got to cart them all the way down to the city to take pictures and then bring them back. And it's like, now you can cart them down and leave them there. And we have been in contact with Dawn, and we are going to pay for the aquarium and that Great Lakes area to be open before dinner so that kids can take pictures there. So, but if you have any other needs, let us know.
That's fantastic. Yes, downtown is good. Kids want to go down there, get pictures anyway. I remember the last time we were down there at the Harley Davidson Museum. It was really a neat experience. We tried to do that again after that, and then the pandemic hit, and it was a mess trying to get back down there. So we're excited to be in that space again this year and next year, Alex. I'll start quickly by saying thank you to the PTSO for providing some sweet treats to us in the teacher's lounge last week. Those went pretty quickly, and I will have to admit I also stopped in the room that day. So thank you to everybody who put that on. Final exams, Melissa mentioned already. I'm not sure I have much to add to that other than that grades will be available the following Friday, March 10th. So we shut down Infinite Campus to allow teachers to get their things complete. So you can expect to see grades open on Friday, March 10th, sometime in the middle of the morning. No school next Friday, the 3rd. Adding to the AP Boost sessions, I think Melissa did a really good job explaining that. Information will be going out. In fact, it's the first thing on my list tomorrow. So anybody who has a student in an AP class will get the Excel spreadsheet from me. That tells everybody when those boost sessions are, so you can plan accordingly. And the expectation you heard from Melissa, who's an AP teacher, is that we're working those things out with our students before they leave at the end of the trimester, so that they've got a plan to come in. We absolutely encourage kids to come in for those boost sessions in preparation for exams in the first 2 weeks of May. Speaking of testing, coming up is the ACT. A reminder, on March 21st is the ACT for anybody who's got juniors. Historically, it's been that first week of March, last week of February, first week of March, since we've moved to the statewide mandated ACT. It's a few weeks later this time. We're doing it online, so it's going to be an online exam. Just about everybody's doing it that way, which did allow for the time to be pushed back a few weeks, which we definitely appreciate. It certainly allows students the opportunity to review a few extra weeks. It gets us in the 3rd trimester. Anybody who's had a junior go through in the past knows that the end of Tri 2 and ACT kind of all slam us at the same time, and we get to truly move past that. So are happy about March 21st. Last year, we started to create a different schedule for juniors on ACT day. And we're going to do the exact same thing this year. So juniors are going to be allowed to come in a little bit later to school and be dismissed after the ACT. It's an experience that we want juniors to feel like they're all in on that day for the ACT with each other. And so we really do like the idea of letting them sleep in a little bit longer. Coming in, we'll have a big breakfast ready for people. They'll get to eat that and then get in their seats to take their test and go home afterward. So feel good about that. Forward testing is going to happen in April. Forward, excuse me, and the pre-ACT is happening in April. You might remember some information I shared out back in August about our full year-long list of important testing dates. We've moved away from Aspire testing to pre-ACT testing. That was a state decision. The pre-ACT is for 9th and 10th graders, and it's now just on one day, not on 2 days. So they'll each be freshmen April 18th, sophomores April 19th, and then on the 21st in the same week, sophomores will take that forward test, which is a little bit shorter test during that time as well. ACT prep. The deadline is tomorrow for juniors to register for ACT test prep. I sent some information out a couple of weeks ago. We've put stuff on the announcements. We got stuff hanging up around the school. We've got a good group of kids who are signed up already, but we certainly, if there's any last minute people that are on the call that know they have a junior or want to remind people they're juniors, it really is an opportunity to learn from some of our teachers, some really good teachers who can help review key concepts leading up to the ACT and provide some tricks of the ACT as we get into it. So we've got some of our science teachers, Mrs. Pfaff and Mrs. Grace, two really good teachers. In English, we've got Miss Dank and Miss Cicero and Mrs. Fraley. In math, we've got Mrs. Zortman, Mrs. Bublitz, and Mr. Manor helping out. And then we've got Mrs. Robinson and Bessler in the counseling office helping with some additional things too. Really good people who have done this stuff before, and it's free for our kids. So hopefully everybody takes advantage of that. Like I said, we've got a good group signed up for it already. Deadline is tomorrow. Winter co-curriculars are wrapping up. Hopefully you did get to go see Hello Dolly. I guess it's about 2 weeks ago now. I thought it was fantastic. I want to share some appreciation for Miss Fig Franzoy and Mr. Astrike, or Mr. O, they call him, who both did a really, really good job with the 120 plus kids that we had in the show. So involved with the show. Other important news, in swim and dive, David Kroll, a diver, a senior at Homestead, he won the state championship in dive the other day. Truly incredible stuff. The team took 4th place overall. That's really good when you consider the co-op teams that exist around the area in the state. Gymnastics is going to sectionals. I think it's sectionals this weekend. Hopefully we see some good results there. Girls and boys basketball should be fun over the next couple of weeks. The girls start their regional games this weekend. They won the conference championship last week. The boys are actually playing as we speak in trying to win the conference championship by themselves. And I'll report it just turned halftime. They're winning 34-27. So that's fun up in Cedarburg. Just a fun winter season. Last year was a fun winter season. And so is this year has been too for our co-curriculars. I'll reiterate what Melissa said about the break that kids had. It was nice to have a snow day last week. I can tell you when I stand in the doorway and greet kids every morning, and there's any snow or anything on the ground, or even a chance of snow, there's sometimes some grumpiness about us being there. So I catch some flack every now and again. It was nice to get a snow day and then build that into the long break. Hopefully everybody was able to utilize that. I can say for our teachers, we worked on high quality instruction. We shared strategies with each other. Melissa talked about the critical reading process and supporting disciplinary literacy, some of our school goals and district goals that we were working on, connecting with people, 6-12, Melissa mentioned as well. And then on Monday, we also spent time talking about creating meaningful relationships universally, and then specifically with some students who need additional care. So I thought we had a couple of really good professional learning days. Our teachers are working hard to finish the trimester strong, get us into try 3 with that little bit of a break. Our students got the reset they needed as well, so they could be prepared here moving into the last couple of weeks of try 2. I really feel like as a school, we are ascending at the right time at the end of February here, in a time that can be tough on a lot of people. I think we're in a good place and ready to wrap up try 2 and get into try 3. happy to take questions if anybody has any, but that's all I have for an update.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I think today was a little bit of surprise. I think everybody thought there was going to be no school. I texted Matt Joint last night and I said, did the kids and I stay up late and watch a movie? And he said, no, get the children to bed.
I heard that yesterday from kids. To be sure, they were expecting a snow day today. I have to remind them that it is out of my control. I am not the one who decides if we're going to school or not. But I respect the decisions of Dr. Joint. It's a tough call, and I know he works hard to work with other people to figure it out. But there were some kids this morning again who were wanting some answers as to why we were in the building, but it did work out.
It did. I keep telling them, at least you don't have it at the end of the year or something. So, all right. Does anybody have any other questions? No. All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate all the Homestead representatives. Miss Gaskin, Miss Blahnik. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yep, that's it. Thanks.
And Mr. Ebert. So you're welcome to stay on as Miss Burns gives her presentation, or if there's other things you need to tend to, we completely understand. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I have to head out. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Okay, she's cute. I was texting her mom, Kristen. I'm like, please tell Alex she doesn't need to stay on this call. We appreciate her update. Okay, and now we are going to turn our attention to Shelley Burns, the president of our school board, and she has a very good presentation for us on the financial updates status of the district.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate you all having me this evening. So tonight, like Teresa said, I'll share some of our legislative priorities, re-school district funding. And I also have a couple of slides that talk about the other work that we're doing as we go along here. The first thing we're going to do is go through the legislative advocacy platform. And some of you have already seen this. It's a little bit different, but I hope that you please feel free to interrupt me as I'm talking. I am a really casual presenter, but also if you have any suggestions for improvement, please let me know that as well. So basically, we are in a little bit of a desperate straits. Wisconsin state spending on education has not kept pace with other states. In 2002, we were 11th in the nation in educational investments for children, and now we fell into 25th, and we currently spend 5.6% less than the national average. The state has a historic budget surplus at this time, and MTSD is asking the state return some of that surplus to its citizens in the form of investments in education. So what is it that we're asking for? We're asking for an increase in per pupil spending, that is direct dollar amounts for each enrolled student over the 2-year state budget, and 100% reimbursement for state and federal mandated special education costs. So why is the state budget so important to MTSD? Well, again, like I said, state increases in state education funding have fallen behind inflation for many years, leaving districts with an inflation gap of over $3,200 per student. ESSER funds were those federal funds to help schools with pandemic-related expenses, helped some districts cover that gap, but those funds are going to be drying up next year. The state has provided reimbursements for special education funding for many years, but that funding has not kept pace with inflation or our level of expenses. So that's why we are making this request at this time.
Shelley, I just have a quick question for the ESSER funds. Mm-hmm. So it's ending September of 2024?
That's when, yes, if you don't use them by then, they're not available any longer.
Okay, and when was that implemented? Because it says it's an emergency fund. So, and
it started with the beginning. It started right along with the pandemic. So okay. I can't tell you the exact date for sure, Teresa, but I can probably find out.
It's like a pandemic related kind of thing. Okay.
It was all about the pandemic.
Okay, thanks.
And I should have put in there what it stands for: emergency
No, you
school-
had, you had
Oh,
it,
oh,
you
okay.
had it, but I didn't know if it was like a separate, government emergency thing or,
No,
so
that was
pandemic.
the federal fund. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, sure. So Wisconsin budgets in 2-year cycles. July 1st, 2023 will begin a new 2-year cycle for us. And the process that the budget goes through is outlined here. The legislature and the governor will be preparing the new budget for the next 3 to 4 months. We always hope they're done by July 1st, although we're already working on our budget for next year and we have no idea what we're going to get yet from state funding, but that's the way it always is on the biennial budget. All the legislators are involved in the process. There's some through committee assignments like the Joint Finance Committee and the Education Committee, but all legislators do strive to represent their constituents' needs in the budget process. So how does the state budget impact school funding? Well, school finance and education funding in Wisconsin is complicated. There are lots of formulas and exemptions that impact our budget. And I'm just going to try to provide a real high level overview to provide the basics on the drivers of our funding gap and what we need to sustain our schools going forward. So we have 3 main sources of funding that includes property taxes. For Mequon-Thiensville, this is 83% of our revenues. Property taxes are also known as the revenue limit, and they can only be increased with the state's permission or via a local referendum. We also receive, as do all school districts, a direct amount of per pupil dollars from the state and partial reimbursement for special education expenses. A small portion of our revenues comes from federal sources like grants and stuff like that. So let's just take a look at the funding impacts of the funding choices we've made over the last several years. So we are asking for the increase in per pupil categorical aid because the 2021 legislature provided a 0 increase in school funding for both years of the biennial budget, noting that we received those ESSER funds. Additionally, revenue limits in per pupil aid increases have not kept pace with inflation, which leads to the other gap. So our request is for $908 per pupil in year 1 of the biennial budget and $658 in year 2. So the key reason our national rankings have fallen compared to other states is that, our school funding has not kept pace with inflation. There was a Blue Ribbon Commission on Education Funding, a bipartisan commission that was established by the state legislature to study the education funding and make recommendations. And the recommendations included providing sustainable and predictable funding for schools, annual increases at least indexed to inflation, and increased reimbursement for special education, with 60% mentioned as a goal. So despite these recommendations, we've been woefully below inflation in our funding, and our decline in educational investments continues compared to other states. So I have a graph on the next page that shows how all of that compares to inflation. So as you look at this data, I want you to note that MTSD is not a spendthrift district. At approximately $12,526 per student, which is our annual spend, we are in the middle of the pack when you rank us against all the other districts in Wisconsin. And even though we were spending in the middle of the pack, we are not trending in the middle of the pack performance-wise. Our students perform and grow at higher rates than others in the state, and I think that's due to the wonderful teachers that we have here. So here is how our increases in per pupil dollars compare across the years. The orange bars are the actual increase in school fundings that district receives. Most years we receive some sort of funding increased. The school years are listed across the bottom of the chart. And so you can see, for example, that in 2009, we received an increase of $200. The bar that's below the 0 line represents Act 10. So that was a decrease in per pupil funding due to Act 10. So you can see on here for 3 years, we received 0 increase to support our students, 2015, and then the last 2 years, 2021 and 2022. And those are noted in the red rectangles on the chart. In the 2021-23 biennial budget, the rationale was that we would be receiving those ESSER funds and therefore did not require any increases from the state. But a little bit to your point earlier, Teresa, ESSER funds are not allowed to be spent on just anything. There are criteria on allowable expenses. And MTSD spent our ESSER funds on a lot of pandemic expenses, including the summer boost programming, the academic recovery plan, targeted reading programs for new readers, educational specialists, school psychologists, Chromebooks, technology upgrades, environmental health improvements, and many more things that were extra expenses due to the pandemic. The other thing that this graph shows is the difference between our revenue increases and the rate of inflation. The blue line represents the per pupil increase districts would have received if our increases were indexed to inflation. So the gap between the top of the orange bar and the blue line is the dollar gap the district experienced every year due to inflation. So as I said before, that Blue Ribbon Commission said that schools should receive predictable and sustainable funding with increases indexed to inflation. This graph demonstrates that our funding is neither predictable nor sustainable, nor are the increases indexed to inflation. And the really challenging thing is that the inflation gap is cumulative. That is, it adds up every year, putting us further and further behind. So these are the numbers behind that gap between the orange bar and the blue line on the previous slide. The chart is derived from numbers provided by the Wisconsin Legislative Fiscal Bureau. So that's kind of like the Congressional Budget Office, but only for the state. So the first column of the chart here is the school year. The second column is the per pupil increase schools would have received if it were indexed to inflation. The third column is the actual increase. The fourth column quantifies that gap between the actual and the inflation index adjustment. And the fifth column sums all the cumulative impact of multiple years of funding below the rate of inflation. So you can see that the cumulative impact of not funding schools to inflation is over $3,200 per pupil since the 2008 school year. And if we decide to look at the inflation gap just after Act 10, the gap is still $2,040 per pupil. This is the primary driver why Wisconsin's national ranking in educational investment has fallen 14 places. In addition to our inflation gaps, special education reimbursements have also not kept up. State and federal government recognize that some students require extraordinary levels of support and therefore mandate many services, staffing, and programs to provide the support. However, reimbursements for our most vulnerable learners have not kept pace, meaning that districts all over the state, including MTSD, must divert money from the general fund, which is designed to support all the students, to the special education fund. It's also important to note that salaries in Wisconsin for special education teachers have not kept pace with other states. We are currently 36th in the national rankings. Additionally, voucher schools receive 90% reimbursement for their special education programs, while public schools do not. So the special education funding is another gap in our funding for our district. So in this chart, the blue bars represent the amount of money MTSD spends on special education services each year. The left side axis quantifies that spending. The red line indicates the percentage reimbursement we received from the state, and you can use the right axis to see that percentage. So in 2017, MTSD received about 50% reimbursement of allowable special education expenses, and we had to move a manageable $1.5 million from our general education fund to our special education fund. By 2022, that reimbursement rate had fallen to approximately 29%, even though our costs have increased. This resulted in a transfer of $4.5 million in 2022, triple the amount from 2017. And so we anticipate a transfer of at least $4.8 million next year. So this is kind of an unsustainable course for us. So as you consider if you would be willing to advocate for MTSD's legislative priorities, you might be asking yourself, and others may ask you as well, if our requests are reasonable or not. So here are some back of the napkin calculations. It's like checking your math when you're doing word problems. The district's financial team came up with our asks using much more nuanced calculations. They took into account the teacher shortage, inflation, our fiscal stewardship, and more. These points are simply to check whether our requests fall into the realm of reasonableness. So our overall request is $1,566 increase in per pupil investment over the next 2 years. Our inflation gap per pupil is $2,040 since 2012, and we are asking for less than that gap. This is due to the value our district places on using taxpayer dollars to best effect. Fiscal responsibility is a cornerstone of our district. And we've been able to use continuous improvement and new initiatives to mitigate some of the inflation gap impact. Our pupil investment increase is less than our inflation gap, so the request is reasonable. And then we can also check the math against our per pupil spending. So our current per pupil expense is approximately $12,526 per year. We're anticipating that inflation this year is 8%. They're looking at a 6% for next year. So 8% of that 12,526 comes to $1,002, and we're requesting $908 per pupil in year one, less than that 8%. Similarly, in year two, our ask is below the straight inflation number of $812 per pupil. So just using that quick check, it seems that our requests are reasonable. And then a little bit of additional context. If we look across the state, how will that impact the current budget surplus? So there's approximately 850,000 public school children in Wisconsin. If we provided $1,566, our ask, to every one of those children in the form of per pupil aid, it would come to $1.3 billion over 2 years. We do have that budget surplus right now. At the time I did these calculations, it was 6.6 billion. I think it's up to 7.1 billion now. If the state gave every child the same amount that MTSD is asking for in year one, $908 for students per student, that would be $772 million, or approximately 12% of that $6.6 billion surplus. The total population of Wisconsin is about 5.894 million people. Public school children make up about 14.5% of our total population. So we're asking for a share of the budget surplus that is proportional to the children that we serve. So the high level takeaway of our messages are here in this slide. Please note that different districts will have different asks, different dollar amounts they might be looking for, depending on a lot of different factors, including whether or not they have an operating referendum in place. We do not, but 295 school districts have had to do operating referenda since January of 2018. So our ask is particular to MTSD, but in conversation with other districts, our per pupil number is in line with others. So our basic message is inflation has caused a funding gap. Special education reimbursements haven't kept pace. Our ask is reasonable given the inflation rates. Because we have a large surplus right now, we can support education and keep taxes low. Education investments help our kids, of course, but who is educating these children? It's teachers, paraprofessionals, and educators. Investing in education has the additional benefit of sustaining and creating well-paying jobs for Wisconsin citizens. And again, our funding has lagged that of other states, falling from 11th nationally to 25th, and we are currently investing 5.6% less than the national average. So at MTSD, our mission and vision and strategic plan all focus on doing the very best we can for children. This data shows that we've been underinvesting in public education for many years, and there comes a time when belt tightening, continuous improvement, and new initiatives are not enough to combat the ravages of high inflation, a global pandemic, and the teacher and educator shortages. So I hope you will join me in advocating for our children and those who do such a good job at educating our children. One of the jobs of the school board is to advocate for our students in many ways, and appropriate funding levels are important to that advocacy. Schools have a job to do to educate our kids, and we must let legislators and community stakeholders know what resources we need to do that job well. You will find information and tools on the MTSD website to help craft your own message, and it is important that legislators hear from all stakeholders, not just school board members and school administrators. If we don't receive sustainable and predictable funding, that means we may not be able to keep class sizes reasonable. We may not be able to offer as much support to tag or struggling students as we should. We can't compensate our teachers and educators to the levels they deserve after years of stress that has led to teacher burnout and an educator shortage. And our ability to provide mental health support to our students is in peril. So if this lack of investment in education continues, we will not be able to sustain the educational excellence that our children deserve and that our community demands. So if you choose to advocate for increased education funding, there's a lot of information on the MTSD website. In addition, you can reach out to the MTSD administration and any board member with questions, suggestions, or comments. All of our email addresses and phone numbers are on the Board of Education page on the MTSD website. So thank you for taking a few minutes to review this information, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the legislative platform that we've put together thus far.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Like, this kind of budgeting and this stuff, I don't grasp it very easily, but you do, I think, a phenomenal job with your grasp and your explanation. And the facts that you put forth to make it very easy to understand for anybody. And I really appreciate that. And I know we had a large discussion after your presentation at area council meeting. So I am going to open it up if anybody has any questions for Shelley. I hope that somebody would, because this is very concerning on many levels. And I know you're putting your heart into this, and I think we as a community kind of need to get behind it and realize, you know, what's in store ahead for us if we don't get an increase in funding. It's quite concerning. So I'll open it up to the floor if anybody has any questions for Shelley on what she presented or what you could do as far as next steps.
I just had a question. When is the date that we need to contact our representative by? Because obviously there's got to be a cutoff time.
Well, the cutoff time is when they get the budget done. The governor just released his proposal, and I would say over the next March and the beginning of April are going to be the critical times, I think, to connect with them. I believe they're having listening sessions maybe even into April, but you know, the next 2 months are probably the most active times for reaching out. Does that help?
Yeah. And can you speak a little bit about what the school board is doing, or who on the school board is responsible for, you know, is anybody going to Madison? Are you meeting with other, you know, districts? And
Right. Well, we have a legislative committee, and through that committee, that's how we do advocacy work, obviously, with the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. We also have, there's another group called the, I'm going to get the name wrong, Southeastern Wisconsin School Alliance is another advocacy group that we do work with. And so we're, you know, our next steps are kind of still in flux right now, Teresa, but like, for example, I just recorded a video this afternoon of this information. So that's available. There's a lot of stuff on the website that's available for people. The school board, I don't know if we're going to do a resolution or not. I don't know if, I believe we probably will be going to Madison, some of us in some capacity. And then we're looking at a couple of other ways to kind of spread the news around to the businesses in the community. So those are some of the next steps. They're just not completely fleshed out yet.
okay. And what about, you know, as much as I don't like social media, I find myself sucked into it, and I think the rest of the world is too. So what about like putting stuff out on Facebook? You know, is there anything that can be shared that way? Is that allowed, encouraged, allowed, or?
You as a personal person, you can share anything that you would like on Facebook or any of the social media things, and you can use any of the data or tools that we've provided. I don't know. There's always like a little bit of a legal gray area that I have to look into for like people like me on the school board on doing stuff on social media. But for all of you as parents and as constituents of the community, you are welcome to do that.
Right. Like, okay. And just even directing people or putting the link
Yep.
into the board and stuff like that, and encouraging people to go. And is this slideshow on the board's website?
It is. It's probably pardon me?
New video.
I think my video will be up there. I recorded another one today. I mean, it's always a little bit challenging, right? But yes, at some point there will be the video. A video of this presentation will be on the website. The slides are up there now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you
Shelley,
so
can I
much.
ask a question? Meanwhile, I could just be like having wine with you, like, you know, down the
I
street.
know,
which
right?
would be
Come on
really
over.
great. Shelley and I are neighbors, but so quick question about I know we have the state of the community address with the chamber coming up on March 8th, I believe.
Right.
Do you know, does Dr. Joint plan on addressing the businesses
I'm
in the
sure of
chamber?
it.
In the chamber on this topic, I guess I would say.
I'm sure of it.
Okay.
I mean, I hate to put words in his mouth, but I'm sure of it. And again, we have a couple other of ideas that we're trying to flesh out to get the businesses also involved. So and more broadly than just MEC 1 and Thiensville, right? This is a problem for MEC 1 and Thiensville, but it's a problem for every district in the state because nobody got money for the last 2 years from the state. So you know, districts are hurting everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I have a couple more slides, Teresa, that just are like kind of the work that we're doing right now. If you are ready to move off the legislative platform.
Sure.
All right, so this is just some of our recent board work, preparing the legislative advocacy messaging, right? We also work with a Wisconsin Association of School Boards. They usually have a bunch of resolutions that we get to weigh in on at the education conference, and we did that work this year. We do that work every year. We got an update on school budget and finance from Sarah Vieira and our friends at Baird, who are our partners in that. We got that in January. We did non-resident seat allocations and a transportation review. And our upcoming work really includes continuing that legislative advocacy. So to your point, Teresa, kind of fleshing out some more plans to get more people aware of what's going on and getting them to advocate for our kids. We'll be looking at summer projects greater than $50,000. I think it's a big pool renovation is on the table this year.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, transportation review. And then our big a lot of our work in March is going to be around the superintendent's evaluation. And so we always finish that with the end of the current school board year. So the school board year runs like late April to late April. So we need to get that done before we have new school board members in April. So with that, here's kind of our upcoming meetings. We do have board office hours on March 2nd and our regular business meeting next Monday. And then working at meeting and then closed sessions for the superintendent's evaluation in March. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions and I really appreciate you all having me. Don't hesitate to reach out, even if you think of a question, 3 days from now, and just give me a call. I'm happy to chat with you and or provide any answers that I can.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Shelley? All righty. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking your time and going through your presentation again.
No, it's good for me.
You've got it down.
Oh, good.
And
I appreciate all the work that you guys do in the PTOs. I know you are the guys you're the foundations of our schools and you're much appreciated by the entire board. So thank you.
So does anybody know PTO related? I know we're not allowed to get into, as a PTO, political stuff. We can certainly do stuff on our own as long as it's coming from us individually. But is this something that we could, push to parents, like in our Short Kilts newsletter, encouraging parents, please visit the Board of Education's website. There's very important information on the financial status. I mean, I would assume that we would be allowed to do that. That's not a political thing. It's just a factual legislative thing.
Yeah. That's a good point, Teresa. I just made myself a note that maybe I'll call my legal counsel tomorrow and see. This is not partisan in any way. It is not political in any way. It is simply stating the facts that these are the needs of our district, right? And it is our responsibility as a board anyway, to make sure that we advocate for those needs with those people who can provide those resources to us. I know it gets a little in the gray areas around the PTOs and everything. So I don't know. I'll chat with Bob Butler at the WASB group and see what he has to say. And I'll get back to you, Teresa.
Yeah, if you could let me know, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. You're welcome to stay on as we go through some business stuff, but please don't feel like you have to go put your feet up and relax or do one of your PowerPoint spreadsheets that you like working on.
I like those, yes. Thank you.
All right. We will, if I know Nicole said she needed to leave. So Nicole, do you guys mind if we just pop Nicole in ahead of everything? Nicole, are you available? I know you said that you were driving and you were listening in.
Yes, I am getting back home now.
Okay.
And I am going back upstairs to my computer. Yeah, so I don't need to leave anymore because I just did what I needed to do. I thought I was doing at 8:30.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to go on to the next person, then I'll pop in after that. I'm going to take my boots off.
Sure. Okay. We're going to get back up to Becky, approval of our January minutes.
Right. I move to approve those minutes.
Do we have a second? Roberta seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thumbs up.
Aye.
Okay. The minutes are approved. Jamie, are you there? Yes, I see you're
here.
Treasurer's report.
Yes, so we started out January with a bank balance of $54,970.57. We had $15,068.25 in deposits. This was $100 for membership, $78 for staff appreciation, $14.55 for the conference dinner, and then we had to subtract out $56.75 in Stripe fees. We had withdrawals of $74.88 from expenses for prior year for some plants for the front of the school, and $25 for the Department of Financial Institutions, our charitable organization filing. And so we end the month of January with bank balance of $56,438.94. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Area council update. Our area council meeting pretty much centered on Shelley's presentation and also the school calendar, as the calendar committee solidified that. The big change coming up for the next school year is that the first semester will end over Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving. So the finals will be after Thanksgiving. That was a little bit of a big debate, and they're going to try and have it after Thanksgiving so that the trimesters are closer in equal numbers. As far as a president's report, I don't have too much to report other than we have successfully filled all our committee chair positions. Thank you to Cindy Anderson and Dana Bartol, who will be volunteering to co-chair the League Legacy. And that was the last one that we had open. And if anybody can start putting feelers out for anybody that would love to be on a committee for next year PTSO, or possibly interested on the exec board, specifically as a vice president, I encourage you guys to kind of reach out to friends or anyone that you think would be a benefit to running the PTSO. We would appreciate that. And now we're going to turn over to our organization reports, and Nicole's back in her seat, so we'll let her speak to us about the events of Voices.
Hi, everybody. So Voices, we had a meeting. We've got our calendar. It's all finalized now for the rest of the year, the school year. It's up on the website under Family Resources, and we have a new logo, so I'm kind of excited about that. It looks really good. We got to pick from like 8 different ones that they designed, and so you'll see it when you look at our new flyer that's up and running. So Remington's, we had our parent gathering on Monday, the 13th this month. I was out of town and tried to make it back, but our flight got delayed. So I did not make it back for that. And I haven't heard from Erin yet how well it went. We have 3 more events coming up. Monday, March 13th. We're rescheduled to go to All Star Fitness. Our Eve Bicker was the gal who runs the organization, and she ended up having to go back to her home country because her dad was passed. He died. Basically, he was not doing well, and so she stayed for a month, and so we've got that back on the books, and we're excited. We had, I think, 13 families signed up, so hopefully we're going to get the same showing coming up for that in March. And then Remington's, we're going to do another social. I'm putting together a binder of resources to bring to the meetings, because people generally tend to come for the social things, but we're not seeing as much of a showing when we put on parent chats, or if we have a speaker. I think life gets in the way. So, but the socials seem to be pretty important to people. So kind of feelers are out there for that. Whether or not that's true, so, but yeah, so that's been, and then we've got Monday, May 15th. Possibility Playground, and that was huge last year, a huge hit. It was a lot of fun, so we're excited. And all of the information is, like I said, on the website. I will share with the PTSO or PTO presidents, and so they can kind of forward it on to their schools. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
For your support again, as always. We appreciate everybody. The teachers have been amazing this year on all levels at all the schools that my kids are involved in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for putting in all your time and hard work and the effort in keeping voices up and active and really trying to expand it. I think it's a wonderful resource. So thank you. And moving on to Becky Kanya with boosters. Anything happening with boosters?
Nothing really big to report. As Mr. Ebert said earlier, winter sports are wrapping up. Lots of good things with boys swim and dive, the boys and girls basketball moving on for post regular season play. Spring sports are starting to get underway, and just a reminder for the pancake breakfast on April 30th. They'll probably put out more details next month.
And is that at Homestead?
I believe so. I was just looking at the minutes and it doesn't have the place in there, but normally it has been at Homestead in the past.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And then Danny for MTEF.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so we are really busy at MTF. We have our annual campaign is still going strong. We are, as of the moment, about 50% to our goal, which is terrific news. So our goal is 160,000 just for the annual campaign this year. We have already surpassed by 20,000 what we did for the annual campaign last year. So we're really excited about that. You have until June 30th technically to donate if you'd like to do that. Easy to do on our website. If you still have the envelope that I believe most or every MTSD family got, you can send it in that way. Really easy to donate online or through the mail. We'd like to have as many donations in as we possibly can by April 30th. just helps us with grant funding for the next year. We get requests from Kevin Deering and all of the administrators in the buildings, and then have to decide on what grants we're able to fund. So if we have those monies in by the 30th, definitely gives us a little bit more or a better idea of where we're at in terms of funding. Excellence in education. We launched 2 weeks ago. We launched about almost a month earlier than we did last year. We had heard from Nicole Brown, who's our ex officio member, just a little tricky for the teachers, especially with AP testing, things like that, when we back it into them filling out their information and submitting their piece. If they want to be considered for the award, it just gets really dicey when we start getting into sort of that late April or May timeframe for them. So we decided to boost it up and get it going. We already have 40 nominations in so far, which is terrific. We're shooting for 200. And I would just tell everybody, this is the easiest way to recognize a staff member. It costs nothing but 5 minutes of your time on an easy form online on mtf.org, and really makes a teacher's day. Every teacher that's nominated or gets nomination will receive that nomination that the family, students, colleagues put forth. Even if it's a new teacher, there are qualifications. You have to be with the district for at least one full school year. So they would have had to been a teacher last school year. And they can't have won the award in the past 10 years. But we have gotten actually 3 nominations already for a teacher who won a few years back. So one of our beloved science teachers. So please just recognize them. It is, like I said, it's so easy to do, and we really want to hit that 200 number. So, and then we are continuing with our 4 winners. We'll have one at the elementary level, one at the middle school level, one at the high school level, and then a specialist award as well again. So each of the 4 winners will receive $1,000. It's always a nice bonus. We recognize those winners right at the end of the year, so they get to have fun with their $1,000 check over the summer break, and it's really nice for them. So on to give backs. We have Libby's coming up on Tuesday. It's a 15% back of all food sales to MTF, no mentions necessary. We've got Glaze, which should be a ton of fun. It's on the Friday that we are off of school. So next Friday, the 3rd, I believe. It's from 10 to 8. You do have to mention MTF, and a percentage of the sales will go back to us. So that should be a really great one. Then we've got Evereve, so people can get ready for their spring breaks. Shopping Evereve Bayshore is Tuesday, March 7th. We've got 2 social times, which are 10 to noon and 4 to 6. It's 20% back of all purchases to MTF. We've got mimosas in the morning, wine in the afternoon, evening. So come and shop. And let's see. Then we've got Leonardo's, which is a huge hit last year. Was one of our biggest money getters. Leonardo's is going to be Wednesday, April 12th. It's a 15% back, no mention. And then more details to follow, but we've got a 20% give back with Collectivo on May 3rd. And we've got a Chinooks night on June 3rd, which is also, I think, in coordination with the, I think the elementary orchestra program is performing before that game on the 3rd of June. So should be a fun time for all of those things. And then we've got Off to the Races, Derby Bash. It's going to be Saturday, May 6th, 4:30 to 9:30. We are in sort of just the final stages of getting everything ready to go to launch our ticket site next week, Wednesday. So March 1st. You'll be able to purchase tickets, $85 a person. There's a cocktail hour, raffles, auction, the derby viewing, obviously. We've got a wonderful sit-down dinner planned at Shelley's. Amazing, sounds really like just awesome food. We've got our fund grant, which we have designated for technology this year. We will have the opportunity during that paddle raise, if people want to fund a new line panel, that is what the district with Dr. Joint is asking for us to focus on. If you'd like to purchase or fund a grant for a full new line panel, which is $3,000 for the purchase plus the installation, you can actually earmark it to whatever school you'd like. So that's pretty cool. So if you're a Donges Bay parent and want it to go, that new line panel to go to Donges Bay, we can do that. So
I'm sorry, I'm not a tech person, so this might be an ignorant question. What is a new line panel?
So they replaced the old smartboard technology. The smartboards are becoming pretty much obsolete. I mean, they still work, but it's crazy how obviously things change very quickly. But I feel like we just purchased like smartboards 2 years ago. But so the new line panel actually it's really slick technology. It really helps the teachers a lot with their lesson planning. So the way I understand it, and we're going to actually, Kathy Conley's class, the Multimedia 3 class is going to do actually a video that talks about the new line panel. So people, have a little bit more understanding about what it does and its capabilities. But in essence, a teacher could, like, let's say they're doing lesson planning for 3rd grade. If the whole 3rd grade team in a school has it, it's very easy for them to interact with actually other teachers. It's really slick technology. If a teacher is going to be out, everything in a lesson plan is on there. So they will not have to write anything out. Every lesson pops up through that new line panel technology. So it's just a really interactive, awesome tool for the kids too. There's just lots of capabilities. It acts more like the smart board. It has like touch screen capabilities, but it's not as interactive. So I'm not the expert on them, but we'll look to our Homestead students to fill everybody in on how these things work.
Okay.
But we do have some specific needs. So the new line panels were put in as part of the referendum in any of the new classrooms. So at the elementary level, we have probably about between 10 and 14 that are needed for Donges Bay, Oriole Lane, and Wilson each. We get into about the 20 range for the middle school level, but then Homestead, who really wasn't touched much with the referendum dollars, we're looking at 56 to outfit all the classrooms that need it. So it's a pretty significant amount, especially at that level, that wasn't touched by the referendum dollars. So, definitely something Dr. Joint wants us to focus on in terms of, the fund a grant. So that should be cool. We've got Joe Ray. If anybody's seen him perform, he's super talented. He's got standing gigs at the St. Kate and the Iron Horse, and he's gonna be performing for us. And we are always looking for auction items. We are in the thick of it with that. So if your family, someone has access to sporting event tickets, anything like that, want to throw them up for grabs. If you have businesses that you have a contact with that want to provide a gift certificate, we're really excited. We have out of the 56 items we have so far, which is great. We've just been collecting for about 2 weeks. We have 30 of those are new businesses that have never donated to us in the past before. So we're pretty excited about all the new and fun things we're getting. And then always looking for sponsors. It's the toughest ask, obviously, for cash from businesses or anyone. But if anyone has any contacts, businesses, local corporations, businesses, things like that, that are looking for an opportunity to get some visibility, pass them along and be appreciated. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you so very much. You guys are definitely busy.
We are busy.
All right. So I don't think there's any old business to wrap up. I don't know of any new business on the table. If anybody has anything, questions, concerns, comments, any new business?
I do have a couple questions, Teresa.
Sure.
With staff appreciation, I am hearing of several staff members retiring. Is that anything that we have to take care of? Or is that anything anyone takes care of?
It's my understanding, and I could be incorrect, but it's my understanding that the school that they're retiring from possibly does something, and then does the school board recognize that they are retiring?
The school board doesn't per se, but I know that the district does something, but the pandemic's been difficult the last couple of years. I mean, they used to have like a thing at Shelley's for all the retiring teachers, but I don't know exactly what they're doing. I mean, I can find out, or we can ask Matt. I mean,
historically, the PTSO hasn't done anything special or different, so.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
No.
I went.
Perfect. Perfect.
I appreciate you checking that.
I do recall at Donjas Bay, a couple of different things popped up and they kind of threw it and said, hey, could you take this on? So I just was hearing and I thought, well, I better ask just to see. So, okay.
Appreciate you
Sounds good.
checking.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the sweet treats. It sounded like then once we did that last push, there was a lot of people on board.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody that pitched in. I think that if we go outside the PTSO and made a few adjustments, it really started to fall together. So that was great. We've got a couple of more opportunities for people to pitch in coming up, and we should be good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Linda, did you get the key thing resolved yet or no?
Did not.
Okay.
I spoke to Nicole and she kind of referred me back to Nancy, but Nancy gave me a key, but that's the one that doesn't work after hours. So again, the biggest.
Linda, I would recommend you reach out to Wendy Kennedy.
Wendy is the one. No, actually, Wendy is the one that I had the fiasco with, and we were like, okay, there's got to be a better way. So no, actually, she and I were the ones last year going, okay, there's got to be a better way.
I see. Okay, got it.
So I appreciate that. Yeah. So no. So to answer your question, no, it has not been rectified, and I don't foresee it to be an issue other than conference days, because it's those after hours when things are closed that I can't get into the rooms. And it's only two areas that I need to get into. So
what areas are you generally trying to get into?
So I go into the teacher's lounge and I go into the foundation storage room.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry, excuse me. And the front door last year obviously wasn't open because we didn't have in person. That only started again to resume this year. So this year, at least I can get into the building. Last year we were knocking on Principal Ebert's window.
Every few years.
Okay.
And
So
Linda, has Nancy Kress offered to give you a master set? Because every time I go into the foundation room, she just gives me a set and then I return them.
Absolutely. And that's not an issue. Yeah, I get that every time I'm there. But when it's after hours and she's gone, I no longer have access to a key.
Could you check it out?
That's exactly exactly, Roberta. We've done that at all the other schools. Exactly. I don't know why we can't do it there. Now it's a matter of who do I speak to get that? And I'm getting the flip. I don't know who to go to. Nancy told me to talk to the PTSO. I've talked to you guys. They said, okay, maybe try this Nicole. I think her name is Nicole. I'm calling her Nicole. Maybe it's not Nicole.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
And she said, nope, you got to talk to Nancy. So I'm kind of lost. All I'm asking is for a key to get me into those two rooms, and I'm happy to sign it in and sign it out.
Right.
But that's the issue.
Okay, let me know when you think the next time coming up that you have to get in after hours and
April 27th conferences.
perfect. Okay.
You can have my key. You can have my key.
Yeah, you know, she nicely offered me the substitute ring, which was fine, but substitute ring stops at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it didn't help.
yeah. Okay.
So, and
All
it's not a huge issue if I know who to go to, but it's the running around the whole school trying to find somebody. And of
Yeah.
course, the people that clean, they look at me, they don't know me from Adam. They're not gonna let me in, you know?
Yeah.
So we just have to figure it out.
Okay. Yes, we will hopefully get that figured out before April 27th.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you checking in on this chilly Thursday night. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week and nice weekend. Our next meeting is Thursday, March 16th. So the day before St. Patty's Day. And I am officially adjourning the meeting.
Wonderful. Thanks for a great meeting.
Thank you so
Good night.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye.
good day, guys.